Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, grasshoppers. A little bit of a late start. Almost forfeited this morning as I joined this event and then forgot that I was in it because I was setting up the stream. Some technical difficulties on the way here. Also rather appalled that there are people in the world that don't see anything wrong with what Dubov and Nepo did in the World Blitz Championship. 21 rounds, taking a round off, discussing the game beforehand, agreeing to fix, a draw based on predetermined moves, laughing about their moves openly while playing them during the game, shaking hands when they return their pieces to their starting position, and basically disrespecting the sponsors of the game, the organizers of the game. Imagine if more people started doing such a thing. If it's okay to do such a thing. And in the U.S. Championship, the U.S. Invitational Championship in 2003, Microsoft had been sponsoring the U.S. Championship for, I believe at that point it was up to a prize fund of $300,000. And in the last round, all of the players, but for one board, 7 of 8 boards all agreed to a draw in the first 10 to 12 moves. What they didn't realize is that Microsoft had brought in sponsors, further sponsors, to get the prize fund up to $500,000. Or perhaps with a future goal of getting the U.S. Championship up to $1 million prize fund. And when they saw what happened, basically, all the players agreed to not play their games on the top boards. All of those sponsors went away, including Microsoft, who had a $10 million contract. Microsoft basically got out of a 10-year contract. Microsoft got out of their 10-year contract 3 years in. They were upping it by $100,000 a year toward a goal of getting it toward a $1 million prize fund. So all of the players chose not to play their games in the last round and collect their checks basically one round early by taking the last round off. And all the sponsors went away. It's very sad, but it's a true story. And it has happened time and again. As long as the players are able to agree to draws, offer a draw, and escape from the game unharmed, unscathed for their actions, basically by not playing. Imagine that there are, someone might argue there were 20-run rounds in this tournament. 1 half point isn't going to affect anything. But it was late in the second day when, when this happened. On the first day, agreeably, there may have been some delays in pairings. I don't know. I believe that the players were perturbed by something like that. But this isn't how you resolve it. So, yes, there are 21 rounds. But imagine that a baseball season is 100 and something games. I think it's 152 or 162 games long. And imagine that several teams decide to take several days off throughout the season, and fans show up at the stadium only to find out that the players decided to take a day off. And for whatever reason, sports commentators can't explain this. What are they going to do about it? After all, it's okay. It's just a game. It doesn't matter if the players take a round off, right? So meanwhile, we will bring this discussion up again at a later date. But it is unfortunately rather atrocious. It looks like Drellcore could be in a little bit of trouble against Monster. Monster seems to be a little bit in the driving seat. Black could castle now. Would this affect anything? It looks like it was a French. With the move 14, rook to b1, though I can't quite see how it got here. A French winnower. Main line. Queen to g4 variation. A little late, but the early knight to c6, by the way, can and should be punished in some other way, I believe, but although I don't recall what that could be. So in this particular position, the next normal move is knight to e2, normally with a queen on c7. I believe that black can take this pawn on e5. He chose queen a5. Now we have a very strange position where the queen is not on c7. The knight is not arriving. So rather than taking here, I probably would have gone for rook to b8. Rook to b1 straight away to prevent bishop d7. Perhaps black would have played exactly the same way. We would be playing rook to b5 now. Queen to f3 seems pretty obvious to me, but I guess he's worried about this pawn, but okay. I don't think I could have taken back with the pawn in that position. So this position does seem favorable for white now. Battening down the hatches, the outside passed pawn looks like it's... Drellcore has consolidated. One extra pawn, not such a great bishop. I might have still tried to bring in the rook. I might have pinned that knight. Could have led to further simplifications, but I might have pinned that knight. We're very far away, so we can't block with the rook. So we've allowed some counterplay. He has one brief moment to play pawn takes and rook back. Now, white did have, in this particular position, the opportunity to play rook check and rook to d8, but the pawns are going to be queening at the same time. Wow. Queen to f8. That pawn is not queening anymore. That pawn is not queening anymore. This is very ambitious, by the way. I mean, he is getting exactly what he wants out of the deal with these two passed pawns. We're always going to be able to get the queen to that square, but we really want the queen to a4, to be honest. Because having the queen on a3 allows rook to b3 check. Now rook to b3 check queens the pawn. Unfortunately, this was a very bad placement. Oh no, he missed it. He missed rook to b3 check. Queen takes rook and queening. This is not going to work out so well. Not to mention alone that the queen versus rook is still a win for the one side. Oops, there goes the rook. So the critical moment in this game was queen a3 and rook to b3 check. I just want to save that particular position for later. That was a great removing of the defender of the pawn promotion. Doesn't matter how many pawns he has, right? He missed it. He missed queen, rook to b3 check in this position. That was a miss by black. So we'll put it in the black column. That was a great one. So we're still playing the Dutch defense, it looks like. Is he going to play thematically? No. That's interesting. Let's get moving. We do need to prevent knight to d5 and further encumbrances. Do we want to close this line on the king side? Takes, 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 takes. Yeah, we do want to close his lines of communications if we can. Maybe we'll transfer our rook to the queen side after this move. That was fascinating. Is there a threat? I don't know. I am mildly concerned. And now for something completely different? Are we being distracted? I don't know. Are we gaining time on this one? Probably not. Well, it wasn't a resignable position yet, was it? Was it that bad? I mean, obviously it was bad. Queen takes d3, bishop f5, yes. Okay, maybe it was really bad. Queen b2 check, bishop c3 check. Yuck. Very lucky once again with the Dutch. At least we made it to page 1 before the tournament ended. Ay, ay. Full point buy. Let's return to Drelkor's accomplishment here. Bishop and knight each. Same colored bishops. Black is up a pawn. But trading off all of the pawns on one side of the board is not usually the way to win this. You need to go after further weaknesses on that side of the board, to be honest. Could we have outposted that knight? Could we have played knight c6? Yeah, I might have wanted to outpost the knight. We're in a little bit of time trouble here with Drelkor. I would like to get a rook to the 7th rank, if possible. Rook to the 7th rank, something of an outposted knight. Perhaps batten down the hatches a little bit with knight e5. Attempt to do such a thing. This is our security blanket here. Bishop to d4, knight. Knight takes check. And how do we guard this one? Knight to f8 might have guarded it. Can black walk into a discovery? No. But now with 3 pawns to 1 on the one side of the board, Drelkor has sort of given up. Let's get rid of those lines. The 3 pawns are going to be decisive. This is just the same as a king and pawn endgame with the knights on the board. You cannot go into a knight and pawn endgame. This could be a miracle if he's able to save this. He's got to sacrifice his knight for 3 pawns in order to draw this. Because even with the rook's pawn, the knight is winning. So 1 pawn's off the board. Probably easier to stalemate in this manner. No, we might have needed to hold our ground. No, you need to stay nearby. No, stay nearby. These 2 pawns walk themselves in, sir. F2. No, F2 and knight D2 check. Suddenly it's become a little bit unclear. Can a stalemate be arranged? Check. And now you should see the error of his ways. Knight F2 is a shot. Go back. Knight F2 is still the shot. No choice here. Of course, he's worried that probably, I mean, knight F2 had to be played. He missed his chance at the draw with knight to D8, threatening rook takes F7. There was no way to guard that pawn so easily. What are we playing? We just played an F3 by accident, right? So we need 5 F3s. This is our second F3 of the day. Unfortunately, the GTO is still in effect. Can I play it this way and get mated? I don't know. Let's just keep up our... Oh, he's taking with check? Bummer. Can we survive this? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. Chess. Takes. And now for something completely indifferent. Mm-hmm. Is my rook trapped after that? No. Check. Don't have much of a choice to try to hang on to for dear life here. Not much choice.
Ronnie
said, "Hi."
Well, let's just keep our pieces on the board. Check, check, and mate. Probably mated, yeah? I think I was probably mated in that final position. Rook to c6 check was probably almost the last straw. I should not have done that. I just had to keep the hatches battened down with either bishop e7 or bishop h6. Maybe then we had a skewer. Either way to getting this pawn. But yeah, this is probably the right move. Ronnie, good morning. How are you, sir? Great to see you. Can't remember what we're playing against e4. Are we playing the French? What are we playing against e4, everybody? I think we need some e5s.
Ronnie
said,
oh no.
Chess.com gave me 35 points due to fair play policy, and that Twitch streamer was accusing me of cheating, lol.
Did he win the game? Gave you 35 points. Hold on, I'm trying to untime you out. There we go. Gotcha. We don't have much of a choice here.
Ronnie.
You know what? I'm going for it. I'm going for the old school one. We do need to play this check. And we'll throw this check in. And we have to guard that pawn. Can we? I really needed knight f6 there. I did. Moment of truth, everyone. Moment of truth. Can we keep our extra pawn? Yeah, that was not wise on my part. Not wise. Can I escape? I doubt it. But let's try.
Ronnie
said, have you visited other countries for chess tournaments?
Have I visited other chess countries for tournaments? Yes. I've been to Oslo many times. I've played in Paris, London. Let me think about this. I did play some chess in Iceland. However, So let's see here. I do need to run for it.
Ronnie.
Said. Sponsored trips.
Yeah, for the most part. Can I survive this? I don't think I can. I don't think I can survive this. I'm in big, big troubles. Alright, let's get it over with. My only chance is to run. Yep. And it's game over. That was the end of it, folks. Wait, did I lose the previous game? Oh, I lost the previous game to that mate threat. Yeah, that was awkward. Rough day, folks. Rough day. Started off rough. Finished rough. So let's just see here. We have on our player database E4 and D4 we certainly could have played, but we accidentally played some F3s along the way. So we're going up to 210. We're going to get 3 more F3s in for the day. Did I bring up some tissue? I did. Good. Been stuffed up, under the weather.
Ronnie.
Said. How do you maximize Lycus for studying? I don't know much.
It depends on what you want to study, honestly. Personally, I like to take a book, not unlike... Uh-oh. No! I already got a smidgen of coffee on my... You take any book, perhaps even a magazine like American Chess Magazine, also a product of Chess Informant. And you open up Elite Chess Study, you create a study. So for example here, you can create a study. You get to name it American Chess Magazine X, you know, or Chess Informant 157, etc. And then you begin studying. You keep adding chapters. I'm not going to add a new chapter necessarily. Oh, looks like I've already accidentally added a new chapter. What book was I going to do next? Let's do Secrets of Positional Sacrifice. How about that? Control A. Secrets of Positional Sacrifice.
Ronnie.
Said. Like playing against Engine.
I'm not a big fan of playing against the Engine because A, it's the blind leading the blind. You're not going to be able to correct your play unless you have someone critiquing your moves. And the Engine can only critique the accuracy of your moves, but they can't give you the whys and the why nots. Why not this move in another position? Basically, your move could be good 9 times out of 10, but if you think your move is bad for that particular reason, you might not give it any credibility at any other time. So let's just pick a game. I'll do one real quick for Ronnie. I haven't actually opened Secrets of Positional Sacrifice. This was the first volume. I did open it, looks like, but I put it back in the plastic. So Secrets of Positional Sacrifice by Chess Informant. And usually the book might give you something.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Said. What do we have here?
Secrets of Positional Sacrifice is
Ronnie.
Magnus Carlsen versus
Set.
Wesley So.
So how many hours of chess coaching is minimum according to you? Are 10 hours enough?
To become good, it depends on what your level is. Honestly, a routine training method, it's like going to the gym. You can go to the gym and you can use the gym equipment on your own without any coaching, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be using it properly and that it may not harm you. So playing without coaching is a lot like going to the gym without necessarily having a trainer instruct you on how to use all the equipment to maximize your efficiency toward your goals. So for example, by playing over a modern game, let's take this game for example. I'm just going to look at this game very quickly here. We have Magnus Carlsen versus Wesley So. I'm not going to insert the player names just yet, but basically this game is a Najdorf. We're opening up the Sicilian in the center, and black plays a Najdorf. Now Magnus Carlsen has plenty of opportunities here to, I'm just going to put the title on this one, Wesley So, Carlsen. So, St. Louis, 2015. I don't necessarily know the result. Magnus Carlsen chooses bishop e3 in this position. Now you can actually use
Arsenal
Lichess
Fantasy.
because you have the
Set.
database
G4.
of popular moves on the side of the board. G4
Cindy.
unfortunately doesn't work
Thanks
here
for following.
because of, good morning Arsenal fan, Richie, how are you? But we could play bishop e2 with the idea of playing g4 on the next move. The problem is they have
Kid.
2 on it right
Set.
now.
I haven't seen you in months. MCD, how are you holding up, my good sir?
We're good. Your channel has been a
Ronnie.
little quiet too, I
Set.
think.
I know an IM who is willing to coach me for 10 hours for a week. Is it too short?
10 hours in 1 week.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Said. 10 hours a week is a lot. Might be too much in a week.
Yeah, I don't know that you should do 10 hours in 1 week. You might do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like going to the gym. But see, you need days to complete assignments, to
Cynthia.
exercise what you've
Set.
learned, to assimilate
Hi.
what you've learned. And Xfinity, how are you? Synfy. Yeah, basically you need an opportunity to.
See you later, MCD.
Junior Chess Kid is a rising star, and I'm happy to see you're back, Junior Chess Kid. So Magnus Carlsen chooses the move bishop e3. You can see it's very low in my repertoire, but in the Masters database, bishop e3 is the
Chess
number
Kid.
1 move.
Said. I am a
No.
rising star, self-taught too.
Self-taught too. Yeah, I was self-taught, but you have to use the right books if you're going to be self-taught. You can accelerate much faster without.
Just a bit of coaching.
Yeah, coaching is really important. Basically, asking people for advice is getting coaching. Teaching and training are 2 different levels. Teaching is filling in those fundamentals, like not moving the same piece twice in the opening, making sure that you complete your development properly, making sure that you are using your pieces and maximizing the use of your pieces, getting your rook to the 7th rank, stuff like that. That is teaching and coaching. Obviously, a coach can tell you that you're not getting that, but not all of us are lucky to have teachers. But training, on the other hand, is when the IM gives you assignments and you complete those assignments. Like, for example, I have one student, he's going to be playing
Ronnie.
this particular or that
Set.
particular opening
So I should
for
like
2
do
weeks.
10 hours over 2 weeks.
10 hours over 2 weeks would be okay. Absolutely. Usually, a lot of these IMs and GMs like to sell lessons in 10-hour packages.
Zinfty.
Said. I got myself a trainer 4 training sessions ago, each 3 hours. It's amazing, I have to say. I get homework and stuff to look out for in my next games. Also, I learned how to analyze, how to prepare, how to calculate correctly, how to use psychology in games. Sure, not everything in depth till the end, but I can definitely recommend it to everyone.
Absolutely.
Arsenal fan Ricky
Said Ronnie 216. I think the point John is making is that learning is like a sponge. You want to transfer the water into the bucket, but the sponge can only hold so much at a time.
That's right.
Ronnie.
Absolutely.
Said.
That's a very good metaphor.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, yeah, to try to take all the water in at once in 10 hours is tough. But certainly you should pace it out. Now, I do like to give multiple hour lessons, but I usually know when the student is waning. Like, say, yesterday, for example, I had a young student who began to yawn less than 2 hours in. He gave a couple of yawns. I said, let's wrap it right after this, and we'll have some assignments for tomorrow. And that's it, and then we continue the next time. So knight to b3, let's just check this game out in positional chess sacrifice. These are pawn sacrifices. We're starting off with giving up pawns. And g4 does feature prominently. Arsenal fan will be happy to hear. So after the move bishop e6, f3. Basically, the comment here is that this is one of the most popular complex variations of the Sicilian, full of dynamics. Both sides have chances. And dynamics occur throughout the rest of the game. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to read the entire paragraph.
Said, where should the white bishop go? Where should the white bishop go?
That's a good question. Mikhail Tal actually mentioned that in many openings, one bishop or another may already be well placed on its original square. For example, in the French defense, the bishop stays on c8 for quite a bit of time. In King's Indians, as black, the bishop stays on c8 for an extended period of time until it's sacrificed on the h3 square. Mikhail Tal believed that this bishop should not be moved until it's ready to be sacrificed on either.
Same in the Kid and Benoni. BC8 is already developed often.
Yep, it's already developed on that square, so you don't have to.
But then the rook is cut off, no.
Ah, yes, but we're planning on playing h4, h5 in a lot of these circumstances. And you're right, in the King's Indian and the Benoni, it's one of the reasons why those openings are occasionally frowned upon, because it is a difficult opening to coordinate the pieces. You have to really, really work hard to get those pieces into the game and to find the right opportunities for those pieces to enter the game. But it's already developed primarily because most of the action is taking place on the squares in the center, and white's rooks don't get into the game in those openings as often, very quickly. Queen's pawn openings, the rook, this rook, for example, is already in. But on the other hand, Mikhail Tal, as I mentioned before, believed that this bishop should be sacrificed in the Sicilian. So it doesn't have to be moved until it's ready to be sacrificed. So bishop to b5, there are many of those opportunities. I don't know that this will be one of them. Queen to d2, b5, castle's queenside, bishop e7. And now candidate moves for white.
Arsenal fan Ricky
said, nd5 bd3 g4.
Exactly. And a little while ago, g4 was suggested by Arsenal fan Richie. And black, of course, is counterattacking as fast as quickly. Now, the thematic advance of the g-pawn is expected and important. White seizes the initiative on the king side, and black has to counterattack on the queen side. Now, this is the major crossroads in the Najdorf. They comment that knight to b6 is the other main line. And you can see that you can actually use the opening database to critique what's going on. You can see that many people have castled, and this may be reaching this position by transposition.
Ronnie
That's one
said,
thing that the opening book doesn't show
shouldn't
you.
we not castle when the files are open?
Arsenal Fanriki.
Said. Yet I like NB6 NC4 winning the bishop pair is annoying for white so's in style.
Exactly. Notice that we've saved a tempo on developing the bishop against that plan. Bishop gets the capture without ever having to move. But the fact that we want a castle, basically this is an exception to the rule. This is not an open position. This is a semi-open position. Black has built something of a fortress for his king in the center, and he is hoping to not get into danger. You can see that Black's rook is a little bit out of play. Today, in modern times, against this particular opening, h5, let me see if I can find the moment here, if it's this particular variation. f3, h5 is extremely important these days. This is the line that almost everyone is playing to stop the g4 advance. So Topalov and many others have played that against this g4 idea, and to allow it, basically they've given up. They think all of this is to a great extent in white's favor. So after the move b4, we have to decide where we're going to place our knight. Are we going to place it on a4, trying to go for the dark square control on b6? Or are we going to centralize our knight, or are we going to regroup our knight toward the king side? Magnus Carlsen, I do not know what he chose because it's on the next page. We do have to choose between these three moves: knight to d5, knight to e2, and knight to a4. We already happen to know by hovering over it that Magnus Carlsen against Wesley so chose knight to d5. And this knight on the 5th rank is worth more than a bishop, so it has to be captured.
Said, Black's dark bishop seems a weakness.
Yeah, but he is ready to come out at any moment and exchange itself for the dark square bishop on the white side of the board. Also, this bishop sometimes shuffles into the game via d8.
Thanks for subscribing.
Namaste. Thank you so much for that gifted sub, Arsenal fan Richie. I need an AF command for you. You are in here so often. Is it AFR? Or is it Arsenal? That was the old one. I think Arsenal fan Richie created that one a long time ago.
Said, thank you.
I haven't given you a shout out enough. The least I can do. But I was pretty sure that I have a customized shout out for you. Arsenal fan Richie. If you've not yet followed Arsenal fan Richie, he streams not so often, but
Arsenal
he does stream.
Ricky.
Said, DW, I don't need one. Don't let me get in the way of this excellent lecturer.
Aww. So needless to say, what do we got here? We have to really think about what our choices are, right? I mean, I do this for a living, so it's not that big of a deal to me. Knight to b6 for black, a5, or castles. We do know that Magnus Carlsen did manage to win this game. So I have a feeling that Wesley So either castled or played a5. But
Arsenal
he played
Ricky.
knight to b6.
Said, could e4 be a move too?
I like it. I guess the only drawback to e4 is that g5 removes the defender of the e4 pawn, and we might be in a spot trying to decide what to do about the e4 pawn. We're adequately defended over here.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Said, yeah, g5 refutes it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks good. It looks like a good idea, but it would have been a candidate move for black. Certainly, both Arsenal fan Richie and I would have seen g5 immediately after we started looking deeper, but no questions should be left unanswered in a way. So knight to b6, and in this particular position, it's a tough call as to whether or not we're going to capture the pawn on b4. Look at our candidate moves over here already, right? Knight a5, bishop takes b6, f4, and queen takes b4. King to b1 could also be played. We know that Arsenal Fan is a strong enough player probably to pound out these candidate moves without having them in the opening book, right? I didn't realize that opening book was up earlier when I, or was it, asked for candidate moves in a certain position. So what I sometimes do,
said, I was thinking of bg2, but maybe f4 is more accurate for the same plan.
the c6 square is appealing to Magnus Carlsen for his knight in this particular position.
Said, is that a poisoned pawn?
You know, that's a good question. Let's just take a look at the line. Basically, black is going to get the pawn back straight away. So we're exchanging a center pawn for a weak pawn, a wing pawn. It's not exactly free, which makes it awkward. It looks like black is doing very, very well amongst all of these statistics. But Magnus goes for it. Now, sometimes I can insert this game and then cover up the moves. Basically, I can cover up the moves, perhaps even blowing this thing up, or even switching over to our lead chess study. But if we switch over to the lead chess study, the great news about that, we need to go to study and then back again. And we have yesterday's game that we did. We need to pull this board out just a little bit to fill the lead chess study window. And we need to replace these pictures of Wesley So.
Arsenal Fan Rookie
said, black almost has a queen sacrifice here. Potentially he can take on e3 instead of moving queen after nbx d5 and c6.
Let's, Vedit and Svedler. We'll lock those two guys into place for now and take them out of commission. And move them into the player images folder. And then we can look at, do we have a Magnus Carlsen handy? It's really unfortunate to have all this empty space.
Ronnie
said, isn't that pawn on d5 a weakness?
Isn't the pawn on d5 a weakness? It is a weakness. You would definitely be
Arsenal Fan Rookie
said,
hard pressed.
It's only a weakness if you can favorably exploit it. It's more of a target than a weakness. Ronnie 216.
So let's see, we can do the book cover. How about that? Save image as, and we are saving this into book covers. And then we can include a new source image of the book cover. Browse, book covers, Unload image when not showing. Just like that. And we can change our stream title now that we've got it. So the one chapter. Oh, it's unfortunate here that we have such where's our chapter title? There it is. That's the easiest. Control A, Control C, save chapter, stream title. Let's do this. Chess informant. Chess informant study. That's the easiest.
Ronnie
said, how do positional sacrifice differ from material sacrifice?
Well, a positional sacrifice is where it's unclear what you're going to get back in return. So basically you're sacrificing to get a positional advantage, maybe control over the dark squares. Maybe you are going to be able to anchor a piece very strongly for the cost of a pawn, you know, an outposted piece square. As opposed to standard sacrifices are usually used in order to attack the king. Standard sacrifices are usually used towards mating attacks or glamorous finishes. So the positional sacrifice is something where you give up something for something positional in return. And in this particular case,
Arsenal Fanriki
said, nebulous vs concrete.
Right, nebulous versus concrete, exactly. You never know. So for the most part, in this particular position, you can...
said, how can I assess my opponent's position to determine if it's vulnerable to a positional sacrifice?
Well, you do need to well verse yourself in the vocabulary of the elements. William Steinitz laid out a table of positional elements, which you can easily Google, basically. You can easily Google a table of positional elements that Steinitz, I think Steinitz's table of elements, let me just do that real quick. Let's Google it, Steinitz's elements, and then you can modernize these elements. Secrets of Modern Chess Strategy. "16 strategic elements." There it is. Where are they? Understanding chess. Understanding before moving. 60. Where are you? If someone else, if chess-wise, I'll put this link in, basically. Strategic elements of Steinitz. Evaluate, plan, play.
This game will probably be a good example of assessing the position to determine the compensation for positional sacrifice to be fair.
Right. And honestly, it takes a lot of experiences to balance the whether or not this is a real threat, or whether or not this is a real strength, or whether or not this is a real weakness. So, for example, pawns are often thought to be strong or weak, depending on whether or not they can be attacked, for example. An isolated pawn may be a strength if it can be shoved at the opponent or used as an outpost, used to secure a piece with an outpost square. And if that piece is ever captured, the isolated pawn then moves into a position of strength in a space advantage.
Also, what are common mistakes players make after a positional sacrifice? I usually lose after such sacrifice.
The most common mistake is trying to get the material back right away without really using the advantages that you've been given because of it.
Playing too immediately.
Impulsively, yeah, playing too impulsively. Just trying to think that you have this initiative that's not real. You have to just play very calmly over a long period of time, and that's one thing that you can definitely see that these grandmasters do. Already you can see Magnus Carlsen has sacrificed the center pawn, and he has taken over the center. His pieces are better placed. He's got a pawn storm on the king side. He has pressure on the pawn. You already mentioned that the bishop on e7 is out of the game, and this position is totally equal. I think most players would like to assess it as better for black because he has the material. And white doesn't have anything definite here. There's no absolute attack.
Said, if you have played a sacrifice for positional compensation, often there isn't a rush afterwards. Here you can see that the weak d5 square is not going away.
That's right. And the weakness on d6, the permanent backward pawn, not going away.
Ronnie.
So let me just make sure that there are no cool moves.
Also maybe like not just trade pieces after that sacrifice.
Exactly.
Arsenal Fanriki
said, and
well, I didn't mean to cut you off. And that bishop on e7 is trapped for as long as the d5 square is dominated. Yes. So getting back to this position right here, this is the moment of truth. They gave this one 2 exclamation marks in the book. Carlsen, with this subtle knight maneuver, proposes a purely positional sacrifice. And although the opponent gets the d5 pawn, I'm paraphrasing what the book says because the book is somewhat copyrighted. I don't think I should be reading the book word for word. But basically, giving up the pawn on d5 enables his control over that square nonetheless. So, by sacrificing this pawn, black has to be prepared, I will quote directly from the book, for long-term suffering due to the mighty knight fortified in the heart of his position. And they gave knight on b takes d5 an exclamation mark because black
said, is that book for starters like me or advanced players?
I would say that this book is for intermediate. A lot of the chess informant material is often for intermediate players, which is why I recommend Chessable sometimes for less than intermediate players. So I can't recall how I think you were doing pretty well in our tournament. You may be a solidly intermediate player. Certainly I consider almost everyone intermediate who's not a candidate master. So if you're not knocking on the door of master, chances are you're a strong intermediate player, or you're just over the cusp of having mastered the game / intermediate player. Having mastered the basics, intermediate player. So in general, chess informant material is often written for intermediate players.
Said,
and up.
I'm 2000 on Lycus.
I think that you would get a lot out of it. I don't necessarily know if I would start with this particular book.
Hello, John.
But there are other books in their repertoire. You can peruse them, and you could probably even ask them. Like, personally, I also liked the book on the match, Carlsen Nepo, from Dubai. I bought the tournament book, even though I went to the Magnus Nepo match myself. Erikito, good morning. We're doing a little bit of a chess informant publication study. Did I save my...
Arsenal Fanriki
said, NA5 NBXD5 NC6 NXE3 NXD8 NXF1 was an interesting line. Haven T counted material there but was fun.
Right? Basically the knight transferred itself from B3 to E3. Very, very quickly. And along the way, he actually put pressure on the D6 pawn, and the knight captured, and the knight captured back, and the bishop came out to the right square. Every single white piece is placed very, very well. So after the move bishop to C4, Black is going to have to play even more energetically and reorganizing his pieces. He does find the best move.
Said. Now after BC4 and F5 is a threat.
It is. So knight F5 now can be met by bishop to F5, which would almost end the game as far as our compensation.
Book, there was a game Elvest lost that had the most beautiful combination in the sidelines.
Are you looking at the Smith-Morra book? That's the only Esserman book that I might have.
Arakido
said. Yet.
I actually think that as much as I love the book, the problem with the book having a gun on the cover means that chances are we should not have it in our school. It just sends the wrong message to have a book with a gun on the cover. Smith-Morra weapons or whatever, you know. Even the word weapons in the school, it's very tricky to have in the library. So it's unfortunate.
Arsenal Fanriki
said.
Smith and Morra. Smith and Morra, yeah. Smith and Wesson. Smith and Esserman.
Said. Mayhem in the Morra.
Mayhem in the Morra. Exactly. I couldn't recall the book title off the top of my head. I had a lot of them. Mayhem in the Morra. Mr. Mayhem may have borrowed some of Mark Esserman. Mark Esserman could have played a good Mr. Mayhem.
Said. KB1 forced then, I guess.
I don't know if it would be forced, but we have other candidate moves in this position. Other candidate moves. Yes, King to B1 is one of them. There are two other moves. That are very popular.
Ronnie.
In fact,
said.
Only one
Who
of
is
the
your
three
favorite
moves.
chess writer, Silman?
Arsenal Fanriki
No.
Said. H4 KB1 QF2
Arakido
said. Didn't you recall the gun on the cover though? I have the chessable version.
Oh yeah. That's good. We can always recommend the chessable version. I might be on the back cover. It's like a really big pistol on the back of the cover with the description. I mean, if you can keep the book from being turned over.
Said. I really like Kotranius.
Soltis, Mirovich, Yermolinsky. Although Yermolinsky has not been as prolific as Soltis and Mirovich.
Said. Arakido 23 Me Too. Kotranius lays out his books in a beautifully intuitive manner.
Along the same lines, you've got the warring factions and the Greek authors. Grievous. I'll throw in Grievous. I think I prefer Grievous. Grievous has amazing instructional books on almost every category of learning.
Arsenal Fanriki
said. General Grievous.
Yes. I might be misspelling his name now that I think about it. But there is a big difference between those two. Like there are people in Europe that don't like Kotronius, and there are people in Europe that don't like Grievous.
And who is the funny chess writer?
Soltis is somewhat funny.
Said. Oh yeah, I like him too. He did the chess school books, I think.
Yeah, he did the chess school books.
Arsenal Fanriki
said. I tried to eat one of Grievous' books once. It gave me grievous bodily harm.
Grievous bodily harm. You are too much, sir. So I did promise to do other things. So in this particular position, by the way, I didn't start the timer. But 3 moves for white. Three moves for white. For those of you who are interested, these are complete games in this particular volume. And the chapter titles of the volume are... basically, they have about 15 to 20 examples of positional queen sacrifice, positional exchange sacrifices, positional piece sacrifices, and they're broken up accordingly within those chapters. And the current chapter, which is the beginning chapter, is the
Arsenal
positional pawn sacrifice.
E5 picking it back up is fun to me.
Yep. So
Arakito.
knight to d5, bishop to
Said,
g5 could be awkward.
F4 H4 G5 I want to sacrifice a pawn any way I can lol.
Right? And then, of course, they have the evergreen games of sacrifices, which... Exactly. You nailed it, sir. H4, king to b1. Some people wanted knight to d5, but bishop to d5 is also a possibility. I have to give this one an interesting. I kind of like the idea of bishop to d5 most. H4 is the most popular move. And king to b1.
Arsenal fan
All
Ricky.
3 moves equal
Said,
each other in strength.
No F4 was the idea. No F4 was the idea to play ND5 after OFC ND.
Yeah, but black is just going to continue on his merry way here. And we could be in a little bit of a spot. We're giving back the pawn, it looks like. Black might be giving back the pawn, but it's going to be very tricky to hold this. If we capture,
Arsenal
though...
fan Ricky.
Said. Yeah, okay.
If we capture, though, we're running into the same problem where we're never actually threatening to take on f5. And if we try, we can't play knight to d5 anymore. So we have to think about what is the opponent's big idea. Interestingly enough, what is the opponent's big idea? The who, what, where, what, and which. H4, and I think that's the only move that's been played in this position.
Said. Maybe put took on the open file for black.
Put
Ronnie.
rook on the open file.
Said. Rook.
So for the most part, all of this is still theory. Still theory. I personally probably would go for bishop to d5 if I wanted to improve this position. I would study the positions after bishop d5 and know those very well. And perhaps maybe later king to b1 just to get off this this hedge.
Arakito.
In any event,
Said.
a5.
Yet I'm Magnus clearly. Yet I'm Magnus clearly.
Yeah. h4 indeed. So g5 and Ronnie's move, rook to c8. Another move could also be played here first, trying to secure the d5 square. This is probably better. I have to give this one a definite interesting here because it's definitely got to be considered. This position is totally equal chances for both sides. Whether or not Magnus chooses to play his bishop to b3, bishop
Arsenal
to
fan
a6,
Said.
king to b1 even.
B6 bf1 is fun.
Ronnie.
Said. Why engine saying?
The knight move is an inaccuracy. Which one? An inaccuracy? No, I put an X. I put this on here. Basically, I could have put that's an inaccuracy. This is interesting. When the exclam is in front, it could be a very good move. It could be the best move. We don't know. But the player played rook to c8, which we know did not work. So therefore, we're suggesting maybe Just maybe it would have been easier to coordinate his pieces by improving his worst placed knight first. After all, this one is going. The queen might want to move over, and this rook might want to come in, and we might want to bear down with everything here. I could see myself doing this. Rather than rook to c8. And rook to c8 causes problems of a different nature. So after the move bishop to d5, only now did black play knight f6. I'm sorry, knight to b6.
Said. Maybe engine is thinking long term.
I don't have any of the engine preferences on this right now.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Said. It's not engine, it's a written notation. Ronnie 216.
Yeah, I basically put it in here. Honestly, I put it in. So like I can put in an exclamation mark here.
Ronnie.
Or I cannot put an
Said.
exclamation mark in here.
Oh, sorry.
So it's me, basically. I'm assessing. I'm adding in the study. I was showing you how you can use studies. You can use Lichess to improve your game and to further your own study. I like using the study features on Lichess because my study is available everywhere. And I can just quickly bring it up and use it for lessons. And of course, you all can share in that. In the Discord channel, there are study links to the World Champions games and things like that, which you can already bring up. And we've been adding to those games over periods of times. And this one could go in the Magnus collection once I finish with it.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Said. That bishop is a sad piece. I'd consider g6 and re8 bf8 to try and make it good if I was black.
That's a correct assumption to me too. I would definitely be trying to do something. In any event, black does play. I'm going to use my hand here. King to b8, queen to c7, and in this particular position we'll do some candidate moves for white. Uh-oh, did I forget to stop the timer? I did, that was 7 minutes ago. I forgot to stop the timer. Candidates for white. I need to put the timer somewhere that I can remember to stop it. And now I can't resize the timer. Wow, the resolution
Arsenal
on this
fan
screen
Ricky.
is so bad.
Said. Ridge 1b4 RDC1.
Ronnie.
Said. Maybe push the pawns.
So try to use accurate notation when you're doing it, such as what Arsenal fan did, right? Rook on D to G1, rook on D to C1. Probably wasn't necessary. I'm not sure if he didn't mean rook on D to F1, because then both rooks can go to that square. But using accurate notation enables you to analyze deeper and more concretely. So bishop to e4 seems to be a perfectly good move. So in this position, ironically, Magnus plays not the best continuation. I don't necessarily know the time control for this particular one. I believe it's just a classical game. But he actually plays rook on h to f1. And I think he's following up on Arsenal fan Richie and or other people's ideas to push the pawn by preparing to push the pawns first, right? So we can't push the pawns without losing material, as it turns out. So we're going to have to get our act together. Personally, the move queen to d3 somewhat appealed to me for the same reasons. I might want to play knight to g4. And for Arsenal fans, suggestion, rook on D to G1 and possibly these ideas. So I don't know if I want to commit my rooks just yet, right? Getting the queen out of the way, perhaps tagging the bishop with knight f5, diving in there. But queen to d3 personally seemed like, whoops, the most interesting move. It has not been tried or tested in this position since, because all of the modern games are on in the Lichess thing, and we're out of those games now. So black does play knight takes d5, and after knight takes d5, queen to b7. Please take my bishop, black is saying. There was a great positional sacrifice of a knight in a Petrosian game. I don't know if everybody remembers it, but basically a really tremendous knight of Fischer's took a bishop on d7, and the bishop on d7 being captured by
Arsenal
the knight.
Fanraki
said.
Yep.
NF6 close to working here.
Indeed. So Fischer gave up a very strongly posted knight for a poorer bishop to grab control of the white squares. I believe that was in the candidates match in 1971. That was a positional sacrifice of a better placed piece. And obviously we're going to continue on our merry way with f4. Now black extremely dislikes the idea of those pawns coming forward. So now we have to do candidate moves for white again. Candidate moves for white. I tell you, I get the best viewership when I'm doing instruction. I'm not sure why I'm not doing it more often. I think all of the bullet hounds, the people who just like to watch bullet, we've got plenty of streams for those guys. And earlier at the start of the stream, I mentioned one of my favorite streamers, aka Nemsko, on her Instagram or on Twitter, I don't remember which, questioned what's the big deal about Nepomniachtchi versus Dubov in that game. It's not a big deal that they agreed to a draw, but the problem was how they went about it.
Ronnie
said. NXE7 QXE7 QXD6 wins a pawn, but maybe not the best.
Arsenal Fanraki.
That's true, it does
said.
win the pawn.
Ride 1 NXE7 H5.
Rook d1. Rook d1. Knight takes e7. And h5. Excellent. So the two best moves in the position we've already had in our arsenal. Rook on f to e1 may be a better rerouting of this, because I don't necessarily see where we're going with those pawns. Magnus actually played the move queen to e3, but I think that the idea of playing queen to d3 is still perhaps a slightly better option to keep. I don't know what he's planning on doing. Is he trying to stop black from playing? Has he actually attempted to stop black? Whoops, that was
Arsenal
the wrong line.
Fanraki.
From playing this move by playing queen to e3.
Maybe he didn't like QD3 E4 QD4 BD8.
Okay. I'm just debating. I think we would actually catch more than one pawn in that deal. If e4, we might capture on e7, play queen to d5 check, and capture on a5. But this looks really sketchy. Let me just look at that for a moment. So if e4... Oh, we also have the idea of playing queen to b3. So king h8, and then we get to continue going as on a regularly scheduled program.
Said. Yet I doubt white wants to take on a5.
Yeah. We don't want to take the pawns in front of our own king with the opponent having rooks. So basically after f5, queen to e3, maybe Magnus's plan remains the same. Just maybe. As, after all, black does play e4. We don't have to move the queen again because we don't lose a tempo with it. He gets to play this plan And after rook to c5, everybody has already seen the candidate move coming. I think queen to b3 is coming. I should actually read the book. h5, h6, g6, and then queen to b3. Wow, there's literally no shelter for the black king now. So black does have to do this. He just has to cross and cover. What I call crossing and covering is just like trying to defend, try to put up the blocks. This is the power of Chess Informant for those of you who have never checked out Chess Informant publications. They are really rich in content, and they are
Arsenal fan
going to only appreciate and value
C3
as an investment.
Said. ISNT black king still in okay position.
He is, relatively, but unfortunately those diagonals and the weakness. So this pawn structure, I just want to comment on this pawn structure here. This pawn structure here is notoriously awkward for endgames. Because in order to protect the base of the pawn structure, you have to really protect the pawn that is farthest away from the center. It is much better to have a pawn structure where your pawns are going in this direction. Where when you protect the base of the pawn structure, you're still in the center while protecting the entire island of pawns going out. So to have the weakest pawn in the pawn chain be the furthest one away from the center makes it awkward for most endgames. I'm not going to say anything absolute about it being a weakness or anything like that. You might say that he's okay, but certainly white is clearly better because of that. So c3, knight f6, d4. The move that was actually played does take advantage of the pin. And he plays the move a4. Locking up that pawn structure and securing his own king. And he's that much closer to having the pawn structure that we were just talking about where he gets to guard. To see an example of this particular pawn structure in action successfully, you'd go to Capablanca versus Alekhine. I think it was game 32 or game 34 of the match in 1927. Capablanca Alekhine, it was either the 32nd or the 34th game that was a classic rook and queen and rook endgame that became a rook and pawn endgame. This pawn structure was worked very, very well in the advancing of the pawns later against black's terrible pawn structure. Took its toll and Alekhine won the match. So as it turns out, black does try to preserve his bishop against the knight, but I'm not entirely sure why. Is it because he wants to save this pawn?
Said, "Can I play you?"
The warrior. I'm going to give a plug for everyone else, even though the warrior knows that we usually have regularly scheduled playing times. I don't just play chess because I can play chess. I play chess with a purpose. So we have channel port reward requests. And I did refund Ron Hay. I hope he's okay.
Ronnie.
I don't know what's going on with Ron.
Do you have any book recommendation on history of chess?
There's a great book by Averbach on the history of chess. I think that one's probably the easiest. Let me just give you the spelling. It was given to me by Diana Tolman in the International Chess Academy. So I'll try to look it up. Averbach, that is the author. He was a classic. Yuri Averbach was a classic writer. You'll see a lot of books by him on endgames primarily. But his history of chess is affordable, concise, and relatively efficient. I was very impressed. It was translated from the Russian.
Arsenal fan Ricky
said, "That e4 pawn gives black a lot of counterplay, not the simplest conversion for white here."
Oh, you want to cover all the major players?
Thank you. Does it cover all major players?
No, I thought you were talking about the history of chess, is where it came from Persia, things like that. My Great Predecessors by Kasparov.
Arsenal fan rookie
said, there is no book big enough to cover all major players.
5 volumes, My Great Predecessors. Kasparov makes an attempt to cover all the major players in history. He doesn't have all the current players covered, but he has all the major players up to his time, which was the late 1980s, 2000s. I don't think that, but he talks about all the great players prior to him, the world champions and the people who influenced chess. So he covers Nimzovich, Reti, Rubinstein, and all the players that made a play. I'm going to skip this one just because I associate it with a Christmassy song. Yes, he covers Schlechter and Lasker. By the way, the My Great Predecessor series, I credit it greatly with Carlsen's improvement from 24, 2500.
Like biography or just their games?
It's a biography of chess. It's the biography of chess. It does include their games. It does include excerpts on what they contributed. It includes a lot of things. My Great Predecessors does a great job that way too. So bishop to d8 was played. Rook to d4 is completely understandable. Are we going to double rooks? Yes. Are we going to blockade the pawns? Yes. And now we have to really decide what we're going to do here. It is time for us to almost get our pawn back, right? Candidate moves for white. Candidate moves for white, everyone. Let us do it.
Ronnie
said, RX d6.
Certainly rook takes d6 is an
Arsenal
obviously good move.
Said, RX d6 rd5 no more.
So if we are really going to get inside the mind of Magnus Carlsen, you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. The sick and twisted mind of Magnus Carlsen. Dig deeper.
Arsenal fan rookie
said, RC4.
Obviously, rook takes d6, rook to d5, I think someone had, and so close, but I think it was a typo on Arsenal fans' part. But Magnus Carlsen plays the move, knight to c4. Now this, of course, does give white a small advantage. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with rook to d6.
Oh, I get it. Oh, I get it.
Right? He literally wants to get that knight into the position and invade on all those. Exactly. Ron Hay in the house. Good morning, Ron. Ron Hay and MD Knight Zero, who has contributed to the dojo quite a bit. I really want to thank Arsenal fan Richie for that sub for Ron 216.
Said.
Good morning. Good morning, the truth. Another one of the world's truly great moderators. In fact, the truth, I think I've lost it. I don't know if I have my subscription.
Said. nc4 seems a bit unnecessary tbh that f4 pawn is incredibly weak.
Pegasus
But if
Swift.
the bishop gives itself
Said.
up,
Hi all.
if the bishop gives itself up for a rook, will it be worth it? So needless to say, where were we? We were doing Ron. Did we do Ron? Yes, we did Ron. And we also have the YouTube channel that we have to plug. If anybody wants access to more content like this, it is available on the YouTube channel in a variety of ways. And I need to do even more. And I do believe that someone was very kind in saying that I'm underrated. I'm not given enough credit for our material, but this is what I do for a living. I'm not doing it as a streaming entertainer. Truth, how are you, man? This is really early for you. Yeah, I actually got to see him in person as he was streaming. He doesn't stream that often, but he does stream.
The Truth ICC.
Said. I could be better.
We can all be
The
better.
Truth ICC.
Said. I got sciatica a few weeks ago.
Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. Painful.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Oh my
Said.
God, that's a horrible
The
thought.
Truth ICC. I saw that great film.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
No, that was
Said.
Gattaca.
Oh, that was Gattaca.
The Truth ICC.
Gattaca was a great film about
Said.
DNA.
Yes, and I can't sleep.
Oh, that's terrible. That's why you're up.
The
So
Truth.
knight to
Said.
c4, bishop takes
Hopefully it
d4.
clears up.
I hope it does too. I know that you're supposed
Arsenal
to
fan
rest.
Ricky.
Said. The 5 the idea I assumed.
Indeed. Indeed, there's no exchange sacrifice here. Magnus Carlsen's idea is huge. I have to actually give bishop to d4 a little bit of a dubious. I'm wondering if he did have a better move here. He could have played queen to c7, I guess. Would have been a better move for black instead of bishop takes d4. I'm going to stop the clock as Arsenal fan Richie
Truth
has
ICC.
named it.
Said. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing okay. I've heard a lot of streamers have fallen by the wayside, and I have not been one of them. As people have been showing up more and more that I haven't seen in a while, they tell me that all the streamers like Saleh and I guess the Well-Heeled King has not been around. He's recovering from some personal things. He'll be back perhaps. But it's tricky to dedicate yourself to streaming unless you have a true passion for really wanting to do it for a long
Arsenal
period of
fan
time.
Ricky.
It's tough.
Said. The 5 QB6 NC6 B3 black has come for exchange or.
Well, it's not an exchange after bishop to e3. Because, oh, you mean because of knight to d8? Bishop to e3, knight to d8? And then we take twice on f7 and rook takes d6 and this pawn promotes? That's what I see. So basically,
Arsenal
after the
fan
move
Ricky.
queen to b6,
Said. Oh, that S lost. Oh, that S lost.
yeah.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Said.
I mean, I haven't read
Okay.
ahead. I have not read ahead yet, but I'm possibly here. So returns the favor and plays bishop takes d4, knight takes e5, knight takes c6. And they do not consider bishop to e3. They do consider queen takes, rook takes. and rook to e7, trying to get behind the passed pawn. But after rook takes b4, the exposed king and the back rank looks very tragic for black.
Arsenal Fanriki
said, I guess he has bxb2 desperado.
Does he? If bishop takes, then rook takes d6, threatens mate in 1.
Arsenal Fanriki
said, no cost, there's rxd6.
Yeah, and that's threatening mate in 1 or winning the queen, and it looks pretty tragic. Also, queen takes b2, invading on these squares looks pretty tragic too.
Said,
after rook takes d6.
c5 then.
Yeah, bishop c5 is the best move. Absolutely. Bishop takes c5 would have been the best move had this happened. But this didn't happen, by the way. In general, what happened after this? After knight takes c6, bishop c5 happened. Queen to d5. We're still basking in a very amazing bit of glory here. It's too bad that we have to guard this. What else is he threatening? I mean, it's a lot of pressure. Basically, he's also just threatening to push his pawn. The queen cannot afford to move away because the queen takes bishop, pawn takes, and rook to d8, checkmate. This square is covered by the knight. So it does look pretty dangerous. It looks like Wesley So's position is about to collapse. Now, I didn't know who was going to be the winner in this particular game. But after queen to d5, black finds a very practical chance in the form of e3. As advertised, a5. And the queen has to keep this bishop guarded, so queen to b5. Candidate moves for white. Candidate moves for white, everybody. Remember, you're not looking for the best move. You're looking for all the good moves, and only when you have your shopping
Arsenal
list
Fanriki
can you then compare,
ND8
contrast,
NE5.
analyze, and decide.
CHES Slover
said, ND8.
Yeah, knight to d8 looks kind of devastating. Rook to e1 is perfectly reasonable as well. Rook to e1 puts the kibosh on a lot of the stuff that's happening with the e-pawn and the entry point for the queen, because the queen could try to enter here and pushing this pawn and trying to get the bishop in. All are in the cards.
Arsenal Fanriki
said, NE5 was another one.
Knight e5 is very close to dangerous as well, because queen d8 is mate. Interesting. Knight to d4 is also a possibility.
Arsenal Fanriki
We can also achieve our pawn structure with b3.
QE8 defense there, sad.
Pegasus Sway
said, NE5 ND4.
Knight e5 and knight d4 are both very good. Magnus does choose the most annoying move, the most immediate move in the position, which exposes the weaknesses of everything in the black side of the board. He only has one realistic move to try to cover everything, and he doesn't find it. I just threw that out there. I don't know if he doesn't find it. No, he does not find it.
Arsenal Fanriki.
Said. Re7.
Alexa, turn on Master Chess. I realize I don't have any light. There we go. Now I can read the font. If you're having trouble in low light, by the way, when you reach the age of 39, my doctor handed me a pair of these. I was like, are you kidding? And I'm like, my gosh, the low light problem is solved. It's my eyes. Unfortunately, it's my eyes. It's what happens when you've been 39 too long. So, meanwhile, back at the ranch. I have to rename that clip. I clipped that story there. So knight to d8. To be honest, rook to e7 probably needs to be played. Or at the very least, rook to d7 might need to be played. But Wesley So actually goes all the way to the other side of the board with rook a7, allowing knight e6 check. The king actually has to step closer, and now candidate moves for white. One more time, because Magnus doesn't find the best move in this position. He doesn't find the second best move in this position.
Arsenal Fanriki.
Said. NXC5 NG7 ND4.
Arsenal fan is on it. Oh, I take it back. Magnus does play one of the top 3 moves. Magnus's move took a while. Even the computer needed time to put the move into context. Basically, I can completely understand Magnus's move. Magnus did play knight to d4, which is the third best move in the position. Basically, knight takes c5 would be devastating. For the same reasons, the threats of mate on the back rank.
A 6-1 rupee.
A6 rupee. I guess that's how you say the currency in India. So basically, black will be very close to be mated after queen takes c5 or not with queen. Oops. With queen to g8 check. King d7. Queen takes h7 check. And this pawn might be promoting. That pawn might be promoting. Any other move other than
Arsenal
recapturing.
Said. That H pawn is a queen yet.
Yeah, this is another reason why this was the wrong pawn structure to have in the endgame, especially a queen and rook endgame. This is a great, good game for contrast. Knight to g7 check was also very good. The king does have to step up and the queen does enter.
Arsenal Fanriki.
Said. Nice, you can call me the candidate move master.
Candidate move master, exactly. If you're not a national master, which I believe you do have the strength to be a national master, not all countries have brought back the national master title, unfortunately. Not all countries have a national master title, which is somewhat essential. I think playing knight to d4, He is stopping the queen from going in this direction because a queen to e6 check, maybe. He's also threatening queen to g8, queen to f7.
Arsenal fan
And he
rookie.
always has this move, knight to c6.
We do have it, but I'm not playing close to often enough to even break 2k ATM, unfortunately.
So Arsenal fan now, isn't it 180 or is it 200? I think the ELO in England is only 3 digits. So a 150 attack is named after
Arsenal fan rookie.
the intermediate player.
Said. 200 is NM yet.
So yeah, 180.
Arsenal fan rookie.
Said. But we changed to 4-digit during lockdown.
Oh, did we? Did we? That makes it a little simpler, I guess. But 2000 is not NM then? Or did they convert completely to the... I guess people had too much time on their hands. Modern English does a great lockdown song. Crowded House does a great lockdown COVID song.
Arsenal
The
fan
dream
rookie.
is over.
Said. 2,200 for 3 periods consecutively for NM.
And that's actively playing. That makes sense.
Arsenal fan rookie.
Said. Yet.
So you can't just become 2200 and then not play for 3 periods. That's good. That actually happened to me. I remember playing for a month or two. My rating went back under 2200, and then like the following year, or another year later, my rating went back over 2200 and surged again. And that's what people usually see. They see me becoming a master in 1991 or 1992 rather than 1989. Let me just check the master certificate. Which one is this? Ah! This is the original one from December of 1989. That one's the original one from December of 1989. I do have a second one of those around here somewhere because the U.S. Chess
Arsenal
Federation...
Said. 89 was a great year, the year I was born.
That's crazy. I've been a master the whole time Arsenal fan Richie's been alive. When is your birthday, Richie? Don't tell me.
CHES slogan.
So, now we're trapped in
Said.
Fisher's mind battling his own private army, and
1989
if we
is the
get
year
killed,
I first started
we'll
playing
be lost
chess.
in limbo till our brains turn to scrambled
52
egg.
raiders from
Kythinsky.
have joined.
Keith Onsky, how
Arsenal
are
fan
you?
Ricky.
Good morning.
Said. March 20th.
The Truth ICC.
Truth.
Said. So Kythinsky.
Thank you so much. The Truth for the
The
shout
Truth
out.
ICC.
Said.
Look at
Look
the
at
mod
the mod
skills.
skills.
I know this. I was already starting to type it because I'm so used to not having someone around to take care
Arsenal
of that
fan
for
Ricky.
me.
Said.
Doing the Lord's
Truth
work.
ICC doing the Lord's work.
I love it. Thank you so much. I am FIDE trainer and National Master John MacArthur. I've been teaching chess since 5 years before Arsenal fan Richie was born. He's catching up with me in age as I've been 39 for some time now. I will still be 39 when Arsenal fan Richie turns 39. I'm not budging. And it helps keeps me young too. And all of my outlook. In fact, when people find out that I possibly am not 39, they're shocked, usually in my everyday life. They're like, "You're older than 39?" I appreciate it immensely. But I have many ways of showing that I'm older. So we're looking at the Carlson So game from St. Louis 2015, and we are trying to find the best moves. Black does play the move Queen takes A5, which leads to a little bit of devastation after Queen to C8 check. We are obviously going to grab, and the king has to stay off the dark squares because of knight to c6. And here, candidate moves for white. We're going to do... Now, obviously, we need to look for 3 moves in the position. And the real secret to finding good moves, the best move at chess, is not trying to find the best move. You have to look at all the good moves, have a shopping list that you can compare and analyze a little bit more deeply each of these moves. And that way, you will get to the truth. Not just the truth ICC, but you'll also get to the truth of the position. Keith Onsky. Keith, how is your stream? South African streamer, Keith Onsky.
QD5 QF7 C3.
I expected no words to come with Keith Onsky. Queen D5, Queen F7, C3. Queen F7 could get into trouble after King to B6.
Arsenal Fanriki
Said. Looks like Kythansky switched profile to Kythovsky.
Oh, really? No. Did he do that? Let's do
Arsenal
a
fan
quick
rookie.
check.
Said. Was a pun.
Oh. Keith of Sky.
CHES Slover.
Said. C3QA1KC2B3 looks bad.
CHES Slover.
Said. OQXB3.
Right?
CHES Slover.
Said. Complicated.
It
Eric
is
Eagle.
complicated.
Said. Whoa, I'm asleep.
Well, for Aikido, it is 4 a.m.
Arsenal
Magnus
fan
Carlsen does play the
Sad.
best move in the position.
CHES Slover, yet it's probably unnecessarily complex, but thought I'd put it out there cause it's fun.
Exactly. C3, Queen A1, King C2, B3 check, but Queen takes B3, nips that one in the bud. So after the move C3, B takes C3, White's idea, as we are getting to the closing time. I wish I had I need a Leonard Cohen closing time cover. That's what I need for ending the stream. A nice Leonard Cohen closing time. Maybe what's her name does one, the Norwegian young girl. She does a lot of great covers. She did a Hallelujah that was okay. Some of her interpretations are a little different. Candidate moves for white. So in other words, what you need to do, and by the way, if you've not yet subscribed to the Discord or to the YouTube, please do. It does not hurt. It helps the channel immensely. Thank
Arsenal
you so
fan
much
rookie.
for your support.
Said. QB3QD5KC2.
All stream announcements are usually made there that we're streaming. It lessens the notifications quite a bit.
CHES Slover.
Said. I was trying to sack the queen for NC6 take on a 5 and push the H-pawn.
Nice, chess lover. And push the H-pawn, exactly.
Arsenal Fanriki.
Said. That's a nice idea TBH.
So queen to b3 check was played by Magnus Carlsen, and this was the main concept behind what he was doing. And here, I'm curious if we can play the move h7 here. Right? Could we leave everything hanging and play h7 here? He doesn't actually do that. But he also does not play the best move in the position. Magnus does not play the best move in the position. It's So we're going to continue trying to match wits with Magnus and or the potentially best move in the position. For those of you interested in more,
said
just
QXC3QD5 KC2.
The Truth ICC
said maybe QXB6.
So queen takes b6, queen takes c3, queen to d5, and king to c2.
Arsenal Fanriki
said I forgot about QXB6.
There's only one move among the top moves that a couple of moves have still been left out, interestingly enough. So we talked about the move that Magnus played was queen takes b6, by the way. So I'm only going to give that one an but queen takes c3 is apparently the best move, along with, amazingly enough, knight to b5. I'm going to give both of those moves exclamation marks, because I think this move makes a lot more sense. Because for the reasons of diving in with queen f7 check, which is another move that should be considered. In this position, we have a variety of opportunities in this position. I am scared, of course, but
NB5E2 looks a bit scary, to be fair.
Indeed, but is the pawn really going to queen? I think black is going to get mated before the pawn queens, but we'll look at that a little bit more in depth. So queen to e8, c7, knight to b5 check. So king to b7, knight to b5, and this is where we were. Should this pawn ever go to e2, we can just take it in this position. I guess we can force the same thing from the other position. Can we? We always have. But if rook a8,
Arsenal Fanriki
said QE8 QD8 QXD8 KXD8 and NC6 fork doesn't work cos bishop defends a7.
Arsenal Fanriki
said but still winning probably.
Queen e8, queen d8, queen d8, king d8. Oh, let's go back to that one. So queen to d8. Queen takes d8, queen takes d8, knight to c6, and knight c6 fork doesn't work because the bishop defends a7, and we still have our opportunities to push. Very strong material bonus here. So yeah, knight to b5, and this gets us back to our original position here.
H7 wins actually, never mind.
Yeah. So here, maybe there's no threat. Maybe there's just no threat if the rook comes in. But yeah, it was just rook to e1. So, queen takes b6 was played by Magnus. And then we recapture, capture. And the game is less than interesting, I'm afraid. As we bring this game to a close, is there something else that's going on?
Arsenal Fanriki
said yet easy win for white.
What happens on e2? We just simply play rook takes d6 check and get behind the pawn, right? And apparently,
said, impressive how he made that look so simple despite it being so dangerous.
it looks extremely dangerous. I've definitely mentally cataloged adding this maneuver to get the rook behind the pawn for myself. Apparently, there was a lot of danger, as he could have played a far less than best move with c takes d4, and now he's got all the counterplay that he needs with this king, and this pawn, and this pawn. It's hard to believe that this position is equal, right? Hard to believe. I'm going to bring this up and put the equality sign. Hard to believe that this position is equal. Craziness, yeah?
Arsenal Fanriki
said, OIC1 rupee, OIC1 rupee re 7H7 RXH7 RXE3 RH4.
Yeah, we lose all of our pawns. And we can't come back to get it. We can't. We could hold on to it, but this king is just too involved. You know, there's just nothing to do here. Yeah, along these lines. So as it turns out, Magnus plays the correct move. Rook takes d4. And after king c6, the king is now in the square of the pawn. Just like that. The square of the pawn, ladies and gentlemen. So after king to c6, king to c2, rook to a2 check. Oops. Candidates for white.
Arsenal Fanriki
said, KD1.
Forrest, in fact. Forrest, king to d1. Arsenal fan, you are strong. Well, I found the truth again. But I'm going to have to type out this one because I wanted to give...
Arsenal Fanriki
said, yeah, KD3 is a funny mistake. That was first move that jumps out at you.
Indeed. Everything is held now. Everything is held. The rook goes to d2. The king tries to keep anything from advancing. This king tries to hold. A lot of different moves win in this position, but the number one idea that you should see is getting a rook to the 7th rank as possible. Rook to a4. Rook to d3 was also good. But rook to a4, king to e6, and rook to a8. This also stops the pawn from promoting. Rook to h2. He's also threatening h7 in that position. c4. Achieving Zugzwang. Now black cannot move anything. is apparently true. That's quite crazy.
Arsenal Fanriki
said. Because K6 RB7.
Arsenal Fanriki
said. And the king walks on from E2 E3.
Exactly.
CHES Slover
said. H7 should win too, I think.
In this position, because we trade queens, ooh, that's very tricky. I mean, we trade rooks. Sorry. That's very tricky. I mean, no matter what black plays in this position, he chooses to move king e6, which is just as good as any. And there's more than one move here that leads to the same result. For example, Magnus played rook to g8. And there's no way to save further pawns either way and escort this pawn in. Or rook to b7, continuing the Zugzwang.
Said. H7 RH7 RB7 XH7 KXH7 K2 KG7 K3 KF7 KD4 K6. Maybe it's draw, but I thought you could outflank him in the king and pawn.
Yeah, it might not be winning. It's very close. It's very awkward. I do have to get my grandson to school, and I do have to get to chess camp, and I'm running past the 2-hour mark when occasionally
Arsenal Fanriki
said. Yet RB7 and D5 is only move, then you play RB6, and after taking rook has to move from second rank.
CHES Slover
said. THX for the stream.
No, thank you everyone.
Said.
Please subscribe to the Discord.
For the stream.
We're gonna raid a young fellow who raided us the other day. Oh no, I didn't. Arsenal fan Fitchy. Titchy. In any event, thank you everyone. Thank you for the raid, Keithonsky. We're going to pass this one over to Witty Alien, who is working very hard on his game. If you've not yet subscribed to the YouTube, please do. You do not have to ring the bell for the notifications, though. I'm not going to ask that much. What I do ask, Xfinity, Ron 2016, Arsenal fan for the gifted sub, Kingslayer Sloan, and I have a podcast, which you can find on the YouTube. It is the French Bishop Chesscast, with the lesser tone of the other podcasts. Thank you everyone for being here. Cheers and ciao. I will talk to everyone soon. See you tomorrow. The Truth, ICC, thank you for being here, buddy. Cheers, and thank you, Keithonsky, for the raid.